Welcome to Live Fully, an ETHA Naturals podcast. I'm ETHA Co-founder Victor, and with me is fellow ETHA Co-founder Alexander. Morning, Alex.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
Doing all right. Kind of, I don't know. My sleep patterns have been a little bit messed up, so I'm trying to get back to better sleep.
Stop taking all these 7-OH products.
There's a lot of experimenting going on.
That's a little bit of a hint on what the topic is today. All right, we're going to be talking about 7-OH products, or 7-hydroxymitragynine, or
mitragynine. Yeah, 7-hydroxymitragynine. Yes, there's a bunch of names, a bunch of pronunciations.
All right, we're going to get into it, learn about them. They are becoming fairly popular in the right. See them everywhere.
Everywhere now. So it is a big rise in 7-OH products.
So let's break it down the ETHA style. All right, let's get started. Okay, where do we begin? So Alex, tell us let's start with the alkaloid itself, right? That's probably a good place to start. What is 7-OH?
So yeah, 7-OH.
I love how I started a sentence and didn't finish the sentence. What is 7-OH? What?
What is that?
All right, sorry, go ahead. Tell us about 7-OH.
7-OH is a metabolite of mitragynine, and we generally do not see 7-OH in the plant itself. It's thought that it is a conversion process after kratom is harvested, that some of the drying technique can kind of basically oxidize the mitragynine alkaloid, and that turns it into 7-OH mitragynine. There is also, McCurdy shows research that human plasma like our human blood, there's something in our blood that converts mitragynine into 7-OH mitragynine. Mm-hmm. And so that could also be kind of part of where people report different effects of kratom because our bodies do metabolize these alkaloids differently. Some people could be, for whatever reason, maybe metabolizing more of the mitragynine into 7-OH and getting more relief from it. There could be kind of some complex pharmacokinetics going on. Mm-hmm. But
before we go further, you said McCurdy. Can you elaborate who McCurdy is?
Yeah, so Chris McCurdy at the University of Florida, he has been researching kratom for probably more than 15 years, and he was very involved and just interested in kratom, happened to be coming across it, and then he ended up getting the NIDA grant for like close to $9 million in the last couple of years to really research kratom and the alkaloids. Mm-hmm. So he's one of the foremost experts in kratom and the alkaloids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And through some of that research too, that along with his research and other research, I want to say from like High Point University, they're the ones that did looking at the abuse potential of mitragynine and 7-OH and also kratom. And so we know from multiple pieces of research that mitragynine itself is non-addictive, meaning that if a mouse takes mitragynine, they can kind of give a water bowl of basically mitragynine in this water, and a mouse can go up there, press a lever, and get as much as it wants. And that's kind of the typical technique of how we determine, say, if some substance is high likelihood of abuse, is that mouse will sit there and press a lever, get more of this drug, more of it. So an example, like heroin.
A measurement of addictiveness and then abuse.
Yes. Yeah. So like heroin is pretty classic example, or oxycodone. A mouse will sit there and keep pressing the lever, just drink more and more of that water until it literally just passes away. It'll just kill itself because it wants that pleasure so much. Yeah. And so that's kind of the standard that we use for these substances.
Remember the human? There are a couple of human examples too. I don't know, get into it. I don't know all the details, but a woman had the ability to press a button, and
because she had an electrical implant of like this like stimulation in her brain for like dopamine release. Yeah, and she could press a button to get dopamine
anytime she wanted. And she just kept until the button wore out. And it was insane.
But then and I remember like the story is that she would desperately plead to get the device removed because she knew she was addicted and she wanted it away because she couldn't do anything else. Yeah. But then as soon as it was gone, she pleaded to get it back. It's like this weird, I don't know, like catch-22, or like we know it's bad, but then we can't get around our human biology in some way.
And we're still animals in the end of the day. So, so anyway, we are not so different than these rats. So, another reason why these studies exist and why we need to reference them.
With mitragynine, you can take a mouse that is addicted to heroin, substitute in mitragynine, and that mouse will use less and less of it. You can give
less and less of
mitragynine, and then even when it switches back to heroin, it uses less of it, and so it kind of helps It's almost like helps get it off of these addictive substances.
Wow.
But
Wow.
the part that's hard is that 7-OH is not the same way. 7-OH will reinforce that pleasure state. So if you give a mouse 7-OH, it'll continue to use more of it. And if you switch back to heroin, it'll want more of that as well. So that's where there's concern around 7-OH. I mean, fortunately, it does not occur naturally in the plant or the products that we see mostly out in the industry. It's almost non-detectable. There's such small amounts of it. So that is why kratom itself seems to be very safe, is because 7-OH is not really produced by the plant. There's just not abundant amounts of it in nature.
Yeah. And we do extensive testing across not only our own labs, we do it with Oregon State University. I know you work closely with them. And all the testing that's occurring in the industry, we have yet to find a plant that has any kind of significant of 7-OH. And trust me, we get requests constantly because folks in the industry know we grow our own plants. We do a lot of research in the different varieties of kratom. So they're hoping that we have a naturally occurring, a plant with naturally occurring 7-OH. We get that request pretty frequently, and we've yet to discover it.
But I mean, from our personal experience, we've also talked about how the whole plant material is a much better experience for what we're looking for. And it's not, I mean, if I take even just a simple purified mitragynine or an isolated mitragynine, so mostly mitragynine, maybe a tiny bit of other alkaloids, I do not like that experience as much. It does not provide the pain relief that I'm looking for. It does not provide kind of the boost in mood. Mitragynine in itself does produce some energy for me, and there is some benefits to it, but it's not the same as a whole plant material. And Dr. McCurdy says the same thing because he's in his research position very publicly out there with kratom. He gets people sending him both comments as well as both samples all the time and saying, hey, like this kratom works really well for me. And he was saying that most of the samples that people send in that work really well for them, he says it's not a correlation to, the ones with higher mitragynine are the better experiences for people. He says it's actually the opposite, where some of the lower or mid-producing plants are much more effective for people than just kind of seeking this high mitragynine level. Yeah,
no surprise to us, right? I'm glad to hear such an expert in the field reinforce what we already know, because some of our best-selling products have very low mit. Right. And folks have an amazing experience. And so we continue to make sure we have those alkaloid profiles for those products. So like Nightfall, for example, folks love it. And we always make sure there's low mit in that Nightfall. So, and me personally, I have a plant. Well, I have lots of kratom plants at home at this point. But I have a plant that I use specifically for just making tea over the weekend. And I know that plant has very little mit in it. But I love the experience, and I take it in the morning. I do a cold brew, where I take some leaves, I put it into a cup, take some lemon, squeeze some lemon into it, and then soak it overnight. And then the next morning, boiling water, some Earl Grey tea, and that's all I need. So normally I take, as you guys know, I take some tablets of ours every morning, but on the weekend I don't. I just do the tea. And it's a great experience, like the best mood experience for me. I'm just in a positive, happy mood. It's also the weekend, so I know it's like, you're just happy it's the weekend a little bit. But like Alex knows, there is no weekend for us. It's kind of like, you wake up in the morning, it's like, it could be a Tuesday, it could be a Sunday.
Wake up at 2 a.m. because I'm like, I forgot this.
And you're working. Right? Bust out the computer and you're working. So the life of an entrepreneur. I mean,
and that's the thing, because there are multiple alkaloids in kratom that are very, very similar to mitragynine, but have maybe a different bond structure. So it's the same chemical formula, but arranged in a slightly different way. So that'd be like speciogenine, speciosilicetine. And McCurdy did publish something, I think just last two or 3 weeks ago, looking at mitragynine with speciogenine, which is an isomer of mitragynine. And so those combinations together seem to be very good for, I think, cancer bone pain is what they were specifically evaluating. So there's definitely more complexity in the plant and the alkaloids working for what kind of perceived benefits we get from this. And so there's definitely a lot more complexity than just a single isolated mitragynine or some other certain alkaloid.
Yeah, the one, like I said, the plant I have at home, I know has a high speciosilicetine or speciogenine, one of the two. one of the two. But I know it has a low mid.
I'd have to look at which plant variety that one is.
Yeah, and that's the one that I enjoy during the weekend. So yeah, that's for me. I mean, this morning I was telling you before we started this podcast, I did just a pure, you as you do often, you give me something to test, and so I had a tablet that was just mint, right? Pure mint, nothing else in it.
Correct.
And normally every morning, Slim Fit in the morning, Tomcat Ali, or ETHA Revitalized Tomcat Ali. I do that every morning before a workout. Nicole and I didn't even ask, did you do your workout this morning?
I did.
All right.
Thank you. I did a 12-3-30 on the treadmill, incline 12, speed 3, 30 minutes.
Oh, nice.
And
This is
kicked
a thing?
my own ass.
Nice.
Yeah.
It was
Nice.
good.
It's nice having those little indicators of like seeing progress. So you can have like that mark of that incline or that little bit, because it's like, oh yeah, I'm making a little bit of progress. Because otherwise it's nice having those little kind of rewards and reminders of getting better at it.
Yeah, and I think like I've been doing this 12-3-30 for a while and haven't been able to make it through the whole 30 without having to lower it and take a break. But I think probably like within the next week or two, I'll be able to.
So you're feeling you're getting longer.
Yeah.
So do I. I'm actually feeling a little bit stronger too, doing this. Like, for those who don't know, Nicole and I challenge each other. So every morning we're going to do a workout, and then we're kind of like accountability buddies. We come in and, we look at each other in the eye and go like, did you actually work out? And it's surprising that all it takes is just having to look at somebody and go, no. And you feel such shame.
Or knowing that you're going to have to look at somebody and tell them that you didn't do it.
Yeah. You wussed out. Yeah. So this morning I had just the MIT tab, whatever you gave me. What you said, 25 milligrams of
25 milligrams mitragynine. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was it. And, I didn't feel as well as I normally feel. My workout wasn't as good. I had a little bit of like warmness in the head, a little bit. So like a tiny slight head high-ish feel, and a lot of my aches and pains, and that's what made the workout a little bit harder. I just had a little bit more aches and pains, so I had to stretch further to kind of get going. And by the time I finished all my stretching, I was like, and I don't know, I just wasn't as motivated. And I came in this morning not feeling as kind of like up and in a good mood as I normally do. So I took some SlimFit just now before the podcast, and I'm starting to feel like waking up a little bit and feeling a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just took our hazelnut chocolate smoothie shot.
Yeah.
That was like our hazelnut smoothie.
Who named this thing?
Someone needs to change his name. Chocolate comes first. That's the problem. Chocolate hazelnut smoothie shot. Right, there we go. I'm just like forgetting chocolate. Chocolate hazelnut smoothie shot. There we go. I took that one. And that one uses our full spectrum 30% extract, which has a lot of the plant phytochemicals in it, has all the alkaloids, and that one gives me a really good boost in mood, energy. I just feel more chatty. That one's a more well-rounded experience compared to kind of our more single isolated mitragynine products. Yeah.
And there's a time and place for all this stuff.
Yes.
There's times where we're totally happy with just getting, just the MIT product. But let's talk about it. We're supposed to talk about 7-OH. So you broke down the science, what it is, where it comes from, naturally, not natural. So now there's these products out there. We see them everywhere. You go to head shops, gas stations. They're the best selling product right now. People can't keep them on the shelves, and we get more requests for these products than any other thing out there.
Yes.
So
they are not considered kratom products because they do not actually contain kratom in its natural form. The only way to get high amounts of 7-OH is to do some synthetic or enzyme process to create those molecules. And so that is, the American Kratom Association is very against these products, especially calling them kratom, and mainly because we don't have the history of use on it. So, I mean, kratom has been around for thousands of years, used by millions of humans for a long time, and we don't see abuse patterns, we don't see issues. So we have this, historical use. We have a lot of research on kratom, the alkaloids, the full compound effect, and we have a little bit of research on 7-OH that seems to be kind of pointing towards a negative direction. And so because of that, American Kratom Association is very against calling these 7-OH products kratom because they're not. They're a synthetic or semi-synthetic.
Yeah.
And the directionality of the research is very questionable at best.
Yeah, the mouse study you just mentioned. That scares me.
Yeah. I mean, I hope that even though 7-OH is definitely addictive, I hope that there is research that comes out to show that at least it does not, say, cause the respiratory depression issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that 7-OH, which most likely it is, it's still probably a G protein biased opioid agonist. So it probably does not recruit beta-arrestin, probably does not cause respiratory depression, but it's still something that is very questionable.
That last sentence, I'm sure everyone listening has like 7 things they need to Google now.
I had to focus really hard.
So respiratory depression is you're literally. So I always say your body just forgets to breathe, and you suffocate and you die.
Right. And that's why people die of opioids.
Yes.
Is because So the typical reason people die of opioids is they can't breathe, and there is a mechanism for that. Mitragynine does not have that same mechanism, and so that's where kratom shows to be much more have a higher safety profile.
Yeah. And then we can get into beta-arrestins and all that stuff and G protein maybe in another episode. You can also just Google it. It's all there. Or go to our website. We break it down.
Before,
we've talked about it before. But all in all, the idea is that it is so much safer. But we don't know if that applies to 7-OH. Probably. But there's just no evidence yet to know.
Yep. Yeah. And so that is also the reason the Kratom Consumer Protection Act, that's now passed in 13 states. I think Maryland just passed a few days ago. So there is a provision in all the kratom consumer protection legislation that's going through that limits the amount of 7-OH. So because it can occur semi-naturally, where once they pick the leaves, it dried out, there's a presence of a small amount of it. There's a limit of 2% of total alkaloids. And so that is I've seen confusion in that because I've seen some of these 7-OH products trying to say, oh, well, we have 7-OH in this tablet and it only is 2% of the weight of the tablet. Mm-hmm. And that's not the legislation. The legislation is 2% of the total alkaloids in the product because it's meant to be mimicking what we find in the natural products.
Yeah. So if there are no other alkaloids,
it can't be 2%.
So I'm not the best at math, but if you're the only thing of a thing, then you are 100% of that thing.
Yes.
So it's 100% of that is 7-OH.
Yeah. And the other part that I really dislike about the 7-OH products is the typical serving or the normal serving amount they're trying to say is about 7 or 8 milligrams of mitragynine. And so typically we talk, so to put that in perspective, when we talk about, it's also, you can also see how much more potent it is. Because when we talk about taking kratom, we talk about taking, this typical dose is maybe 30, 40 milligrams of mitragynine plus the other alkaloids. So we're in this kind of 30 to 50 milligrams of alkaloid range. Mm-hmm. But when we talk about 7-OH products, we're down in the 7 to 8 milligrams. So it's much, 10x more potent. But even with that, these tablets, instead of being here's a single serving in a single tablet, they put 2 servings in 1 tablet. And then it's on the consumer to separate it and break it themselves, which and that's kind of a common problem we don't want to perpetuate with kratom. Same thing with those small, kratom shots where it's 3 servings in a tiny bottle. The accidental overconsumption is so easy for these products. That's another part that is very, suspect to say the least, or kind of, just makes it seem shady. And it's like, why are you guys doing that? Like,
it's hard to break a tablet in half.
Yes.
It's already small.
Yeah.
And it's now I got to break it in half.
Right.
Everyone's just going to take one.
Yes.
Or if I think, well, that number seems small without knowing the science, right?
Exactly.
7 milligrams. Well, 7 milligrams, shit. I take, I take so much more of that in regular
just
kratom.
1 tablet. Yeah, there's so many.
So I'll take 2 tablets.
Exactly. So there's so many places for kind of consumer error, but it's not like the packaging and that company is helping consumers be less error prone. They're actually inciting it, which is super unfortunate.
Yeah. So while these products are popular, they are not abiding by the Kratom Consumer Protection Act or any other legislation that's been presented or approved. The American Kratom Association does not support these products, but they exist, and they exist for a reason. Yes. Now, I personally, in full transparency, I have yet to try any. I only try whatever you give me. You haven't given it to me yet, so I haven't tried it. And I have a good routine of our own products, so I have no need. But you have.
I have.
And you have shared with others. And I have gotten some of their, so I've gotten it from one of our, I don't know if, I shouldn't say who it is, but I'll share their story too. But you can go first.
So I took half a tablet, so about 7.5 milligrams. And I mean, overall, I think it was a good experience. I mean, it's only one case that I can talk about, but I remember being fairly kind of positive. I think pain levels were lower, and I was also very active that time. I think I was out like fixing my car at the time because something was wrong with it. So it was a good time to kind of use one of those products where it's like not necessarily, so I didn't get to understand if I couldn't focus on it or not. Because I know sometimes these products, if I take too much mitragynine, my ability to focus kind of goes down, but it's better for me to say, go do a workout. So in this one use case, I would say it was a good experience overall, but that's a very minimal like start to it.
Yeah. But that makes sense, right? Something doesn't become popular if people are having a bad experience.
Correct.
So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I'll share this story. So one of our friends, we gave a couple of these tablets, and his experience is he loved it. But he loved it so much because it mimicked his previous addiction to opioids. Mm-hmm. So he and his family have some issues with opioid abuse. And so he's very familiar with the experience. And he has since moved on to try Kratom, our Sunrise, actually, just a fan of Sunrise. And that's what he uses. He's been using it for years and has a great experience. But when he took one of these 7-OH products, he was like, oh, wow, this is very much like what I remember from my opioid days.
Yeah. So
and I'm hesitant to share with others in my family because of that.
Yeah.
And he wanted more.
And I think that's the issue, right?
It's only one person, I know, but that's his honest perspective on the product.
Yep.
And so he said, keep that away from me.
Yeah. And I think that would be that's why I don't want to do too many of them, because fortunately I have not had an experience with opioid kind of addiction, or I don't have any history of use of those, but I don't want to start. I don't want to like get into that side. And so even if it feels like, oh, this is a pretty good experience, but then if something happens where now I need it more, want more, it's a subtle change, like that's the kind
over
of
time
concern. And that's kind of what the research is most likely pointing to based on the little bit of research we have.
Yeah, it's like a boat, right? It takes 1 degree of change, all of a sudden you're off in a totally different course.
Yeah,
right? It takes so little. Anyway.
And then, on top of that, so what I'm also trying to understand is, because you mentioned Oregon State University, so the Linus Pauling Institute at Oregon State, we work with Dr. Richard Van Bremen. He's had a long history of working with natural compounds. He invented some way to screen drugs in a very cost-effective, like very cool way that is all off patent now. So like pretty much every drug company uses it, what he developed a long time ago. And he has amazing, history of being able to test these complex natural matrices. How do we extract it out of there? How do we analyze it? And very sophisticated equipment. And so I gave him some competitor tablets to kind of look at these 7-OH. I want to say, what's in this? And looking at it, there is definitely, just like we talk about mitragynine, speciog9, speciosilicline are isomers. They're the same molecule but have a different bond structure. So they create kind of like your left and right hand are mirrored opposites of each other. Yeah. That's what I mean by isomers.
Yeah, they look different. They structure different, yeah.
And so from his testing, giving these two products, they're supposed to have 14 or 15 milligrams of 7-OH in them. From Richard's test, it looks like one of them has 10 milligrams of 7-OH. The other one had about 12.5 milligrams 7-OH. But there is some other molecule that is registering on the test equipment that has the same molecular weight as 7-OH. So most likely, just there are isomers of 7-OH. So depending on if it is created naturally or synthetically, will create the same molecule, but will have a different bond structure, will have a different isomer to it. So that is showing that the 7-OH in that product is 100% semi-synthetic at best, because we're showing the presence of it. We can show that analytically. So definitely their packaging claim that it's organic kratom, natural alkaloids is definitely not true. Yeah. And we don't necessarily know, we have very little research on 7-OH as is, but then just like, we've talked about mitragynine, speciog9, speciosilicline are isomers and have very different pharmacokinetic effects. We don't know what the different pharmacokinetic effects of the different isomers of 7-OH are.
Yeah.
So
now introducing an unknown.
Another unknown. Yeah, very, very kind of unknown. Yeah. Could be anything.
You think 7-OH is unknown? try an isomer of
Yeah,
7-OH. That's the unknown of the unknown.
So we're getting into this like level of just
Yeah.
and it's semi-synthetic,
whatever,
so it's
take
not
it.
like we've had a history of use of these. We don't know anything about them.
Aye,
Potential
aye.
for there is all over the place.
Yeah. That's. I mean, it's just disheartening for me. I get why these things become popular. They're money makers for sure. Even our own sales team is constantly asking us to invent and make these products. We can make these products. It's not hard to make, but we choose not to because we take our time. We do the research, which you've presented some of it today.
Yep.
Nothing here says that we need to move forward with these products.
Correct.
You know, there's got to be a better way. And by the way, there is.
Whole leaf kratom. It's already there.
It's
It's
already
simple.
there.
It's done. And
Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't want people to mistake these 7-OH with, you know, for example, like our mints. Our mints are also, they look similar. They're also an extract, but it's a different experience. Can you go into a little bit, like what's the difference between like a 7-OH product and like say one of our mint products?
Sure. So, I mean, our mint product is natural alkaloids. These are alkaloids that are extracted through a solvent process. So FDA approved solvents for food contact and food use. We'll use those solvents to create the extract powders. Those powders will then go into other binders, tablets, or flavoring to make our tablets. So it's still a natural alkaloid with the plant material removed.
Yeah, which, you know, I know a lot of folks say with ETHA, sorry to interrupt, Alex, but, you know, they say they know of us from our whole leaf tablets and our claim that, you know, we only use 100% kratom, no binders, no fillers, no additives. And that is true. But in the case of this, we do have to use some of those additives, including flavor. We don't add flavor to our normal whole leaf tablets.
Correct.
And
Yes.
then some other binders and stuff because we can't make a 300 milligram. Well, we could make a 300 milligram.
Yes, I mean,
mint
it's
tablet,
yes. And in binders, I mean, it's basically fructose. So we
Yeah.
use kind of a sugar base, which is common for most other mints, and then very minimal, some natural flavors and the kratom extract. So it's
Yeah.
a very minor amount of ingredients.
we keep it as pure as possible.
Yes.
Yeah, and natural as possible. Yeah. So the way. Cool. Sorry. Go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, in the 7-OH products that are on the market, they are taking most likely some of these extracts that are available, the purified mitragynine extracts in the market, and they're going to be doing some kind of chemical process to it. I'm not quite sure. I mean, there's a few ways to kind of do like an oxidative process. So using something, I don't know, something like a peroxide or UV light, something that will kind of oxidate the molecules. Or there could be most likely like an enzyme process. So like some kind of enzyme that converts the molecules into 7-OH is another way they could be doing it, but it's definitely a lab created semi-synthetic derivative that is not a natural product by any
No.
means.
Yeah. So about as different as you can possibly be, and hence a different experience.
Yes.
Again, I haven't tried a 7-OH product, so I really can't say. But I will say, you know, if I need, you know, a nice mood boost, a good pick me up, and just go and like, you know, seize the day, I'll take one of our mints. That's enough for me. I don't ever feel like, oh, this isn't enough. And I've never even done 2 at a time. I've only done 1. So, you know, there's a safer alternative that's already out there. But
Right.
you know, I might not be the best person to do the compare. I'll try some. If you give me one, I'll report back on another podcast on my experience. But to your point, even if it's a good experience, why deal with the risk? Right?
Yes,
And why
and that's the
promote
thing.
these issues for legality, regulation, for
Right.
the industry in general? You know, it's just not good for us. Yeah. Anything else you want to add in? Thanks for all. I learned a lot today, so thank you, Alex, for the knowledge.
I don't think so. I mean, I'm still trying to learn more about it as far as I'll be investigating more what those isomers are, what they really look like, what are the potential. I think there's something like a possibility of 16 optical isomers of 7-OH. Like, it's crazy how complex chemistry gets.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating because this is, and it's not like kratom is unique by any means. Every single product we have out there, whether you know, you go to like Lowe's and you want a pesticide or an herbicide for your garden, even though like if you look on, that's a very well regulated market in some some ways. And so Richard gave me this example, was that there's a certain pesticide that's highly used, very common. And so if you go to Lowe's and you look at those pesticides, you'll see right in the front label, you get this big warning. It'll say, oh, this has 0.6% or some tiny like percentage of this pesticide. But what Richard was saying was that those pesticides are, toxic, as you can imagine. And so if if a human consumes them, generally there is a protocol for a medication or something that needs to be taken to help clear it from your body. Mm-hmm. But what he was saying is that in his research, he saw this pesticide where one of the isomers of the pesticide would have like a half-life of a few hours or a few days. And so in order to take that medication, you needed to kind of correlate it to the half-life of that pesticide. So the protocol was like, well, you got to take this medication for 7 days.
Wow.
But what he was saying was that through his research, he saw that there was an isomer of that pesticide that had like a half-life of 30 days.
What?
And so that the thing is like, and so if you see, oh, well, this person had 0.6% of this, if you don't know how much of that, 7-day versus 30-day pesticide was actually in there, how do you then match that to the correct protocol of that medication that needs to be taken?
Yeah.
And so that's some of the complexity that is in all products around that we have in our daily lives. And that's the fascinating part, is that once you start asking these questions and try to understand it, it's almost like this endless, I don't know, like hole of more and more questions and like confusion. And like, well, okay, I came in knowing like a small amount about it. I did all this research, spent all this time, and now I realize that I know even less than I thought I did. So
right.
Like,
as the circle of knowledge increases, so is the circle of the unknown.
Yeah,
right?
but
whatever Neil deGrasse Tyson says.
I know, but it's almost like this, like my tiny circle of knowledge, and then there's, I don't know, almost like multiple circles of more and more questions. I know, because it's even like more questions. I'm like, oh my God.
The sphere. Now you're talking about multiple dimensions of knowledge.
Because it's like, because it seems like there's even less that I know about it. So.
Oh, I know, right? Even there's this basic alkaloid discussion we had just now, right? It's like we know there's how many alkaloids in the kratom plant, and now you're saying one of these alkaloids now has also more isomers of it. So it's like,
right. Yep.
Great.
And then how does your body change that and metabolite and turn those into metabolites and make changes? And it can like cascade so fast and so complex. This is why the FDA has such a hard job, right? Mm-hmm. Because I hope people can appreciate that side of, yes, even though the FDA, there's a lot of shenanigans that happen at the FDA, so to speak, just because of that nice revolving door that they have on their FDA commissioners always go into industry they're supposed to be regulating is
makes no sense.
It's not good for the general public.
Yeah.
But at the core, the true people at the FDA who are doing the science and the research, they have a very difficult job to try to even understand this and try to regulate, try to propose guidelines. All this is super complex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what we got to work with them.
Yep.
Help educate, be patient, and not promote products like these 7-OH products that are out there right now. So
yes.
All right, guys, that's our take on it. It might change as we learn more about these products and
there's some great research out there. Yeah, there could always be changes to the information that we get.
Yeah, but for now, stay clear. That's our recommendation. All right, guys. Well, thank you, as always, for tuning in and getting some more insight on 7-OH products. And if you learned anything or enjoyed yourself, we'd, as always, really appreciate it if you supported the show by shopping at ETHANaturals.com for all your kratom and now even kava needs. We have
kava.
Love it. I love our cinnamons. Kratom and kava cinnamons. What a fun experience. Talking about something for a nice like mood boost. That's my go-to for sure. Except that I'm a little bit too chatty when I'm on it. And I think I start to annoy people that are with me. Right, Nicole? No. Okay, cool. She's paid to say no.
Well, if I respond, then he's going to talk more. So
yeah, I'll just be quiet. All right. As always, if you guys have any questions, there's so many ways to reach out to us. I know now we have a new way where you can go into the whatever app you're listening to our podcast, say like Spotify. There's a way for you to now ask questions directly through the app itself, and we have a person monitoring, or a couple folks monitoring all of it. And so I don't know for sure if this topic came from that, but we didn't come up with this topic. So someone came up with it. I'm assuming it's probably from you guys, and we appreciate it. Put us put us on the spot and force us to do the research and force us to give you our honest opinion. As always,
Good thing we don't read off teleprompters.
I know it's not like I have notes I should be reading.
But I was just reading these notes, and it's Alexander, Victor, Amanda, or Sasha, like,
or whoever's here. I know I can't read. That's why I don't even read these anymore. I'm like, okay. So yeah, that sentence is hilarious. Let's just read it as it is. Okay. Until next time, I'm parentheses Alexander, Victor, Amanda, or Sasha, and I'm
Alexander, Victor, Amanda, or Sasha.
And we forgot Nicole.
Nicole.
And Nicole. And as always, live fully.